I'm the Spirit Keeper, and I give you a reason for every season. Today, Home Depot's manager meeting photos have been leaked. I'm so excited to talk about these, and I do not want to waste any more time. Let's take a look. Home Depot has just revealed their manager meeting photos for 2025, and this is the first day of them actually being set up. Not even the first official day of the manager meeting, and we already have so many photos and new props to talk about. Before I move on, I just want to give credit for these photos to Dowood Manor. Thank you so much for providing these images because there's a lot to say. First up, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite images, which is jam-packed. In this image, we can see the Ogre, the 15-foot Scarecrow, and these witches. First up, I definitely want to talk about the Ogre because he is definitely my favorite so far of the lineup from Home Depot. The Ogre's size is just phenomenal, and I love how he looks in general. That type of green color, and his belly looks great. It kind of looks more like mossy and messy compared to his face that's actually just like straight up light green. And I love his feet of how gigantic they are. Like I said, the proportions are a bit disproportionate, but I think it really adds to this guy to really set the mood just because I love that he is so tall. And seeing that the 15-foot Scarecrow is behind him, I'm thinking that this guy will be a 12-footer, if not close to that. I also love his sort of pants. He doesn't really have pants, but I love that type of brown shade, and I think it looks great. And then he has this type of fur going on top of it, which I think looks great. And then he also seems to be holding a green lantern that actually has some LEDs in it, which I love for that added lighting. And from the bit that we can see, his hands also look phenomenal with a type of rope tied around them. But I want to talk about his face because that is the most important part to me because it looks phenomenal. His face is so great for an ogre character, and I love the way his ears look too. They're kind of like not typical ears that you would see on a Home Depot prop. They're like very ogre-like, which I think is great. And his teeth look great. He has these two giant teeth that are like very classic troll-like, but I love it for this guy because I think it is just so great. And I love his eyes too. His eyes just look great. And I'm personally thinking that those eyes kind of look like the typical servo eyes that we do see for Home Depot. So this guy could possibly be a servo. But all aside from the Ogre, I want to move on to the 15-foot Scarecrow. The 15-foot Scarecrow looks great. He does have a digital light-up face, which I don't know how I feel about that, but from the images, he looks great. He's so tall, and I like that he's sort of floating almost, and he's on a pole. To me, it kind of appears that he's floating, but he is on a like pole, obviously, for the typical Scarecrow. And I love his color scheme with that type of red clothing all around, and his long fingers as tree branches just look so great. And he also has like tree branches for feet, so he's kind of a mix of all characters. I feel like he's kind of tree. Scarecrow, I'm not seeing too much of a Scarecrow besides his hair is straw, and then you have a pumpkin. So this character is like a 3-in-1, which I think is great, and I can't wait to see this guy in person. Next up is going to be these witches. Now at first, I wasn't too excited about these, but they could possibly be one of the high-tech servo props from Home Depot this year. The witches seem to have a silicone sort of face, which I think is really cool, and that's kind of what's setting me on to believing that they could be the high-tech servos. Another thing I love about them is that they're actually stirring a cauldron, and it looks like they might interact together, which is, if these are the high-tech servo props and interacting together, this could be crazy. Just with all that realistic movement and they're interacting together, that could just make for such a good scene in a haunt or just anywhere. The witch on the left is also holding a possum, which I think is really great, and it looks like they're both holding that little staff together to stir the cauldron. I don't know if you can change the cauldron's colors, but in the photo it is on a green, and I really like that shade of green just because it kind of is with that type of green vibe that their clothing is, and I think it's great for these witches. In this next photo, this might be my favorite photo also because this has the shark that is going to be a new, for 2025, I believe, a static prop, and this looks phenomenal. It looks just like a professional quality prop. This shark is truly amazing with 2 rows of teeth on the top, and it seems to be 2 rows of teeth on the bottom, so sort of like a great white shark in a way. I love how glossy the mouth looks. It just looks so great. And the eyes, and then he has these cuts all over him. This could be another pickup for me for Home Depot 2025. It's just I don't know how I would use him. And then in front of him, we have a sort of reskin of the fisherman prop. And this one looks to be more zombie-like compared to the one that we did get a couple years ago from Home Depot. And I like him a lot more just because I think his face sculpt looks really good. And I like that in his fishing pole, he actually caught a dead fish, a skeletal fish, which I think is really cool. Behind the shark, we can see Frankenstein is returning for the 2025 season. He was for Home Depot's 2024 season last year, and now he's returning. We can also see a sort of tombstone in this picture, but I won't talk about that too much because it's kind of just there. And then all the way in the back, we can get a look at a prop that I'm going to talk about a bit more in just a second. But this is going to be Home Depot's possibly highest tech prop of all time. This prop is going to be the 12-foot skeleton, but on steroids. This prop isn't going to be 12 feet tall. I'm pretty sure he's around 6 feet tall. But this skeleton is so advanced in technology, it's crazy. So he does have tons of LEDs that you can change the colors of. And another thing that is very interesting is that you can actually choose the phrases that this guy says. This guy comes with an app that you can actually use to control everything on him. And you can actually type in a saying that you would like him to say, and he would actually speak that, which I'm very excited to see how that will work, just because I want to see how his voice is and how the programming actually works, because this is just crazy. Nothing like we've ever seen before in any market, not even the pro market. And I'm so excited for this. This is also sort of a Spirit Halloween Grim on steroids. He will probably most likely have some arm movement and some head movement, which I'm just so excited to see what this guy does look like. The next image I want to talk about has this sort of pumpkin character in it, and we can see a bit of a look at the 15-foot Scarecrow again. But I'm only going to be covering the sort of pumpkin guy, and he looks okay. He's not my favorite from Home Depot this year, but he isn't terrible. I will say, there isn't any Home Depot props this year that are really saying they're not that good. All of them are like very good. Same with the past 2 years from Home Depot. They are really stepping up their game this year. This pumpkin guy has a sort of cartoonish look to him. Maybe he'll be made by SVI. Probably Pack though. I don't know. We'll have to see. He has that straw hair, which I think is great. And then this really tall top hat, which he might be like 8 feet tall with the top hat, which I think the top hat is cool to add to his height. But I feel like it could have been just a smidge smaller, but I'm totally fine with that. And then he's kind of like holding a cane almost, as if he needs like that sort of back support to actually stand up, which I think is cool to show that like he's like old and stuff. And his face looks really good. It seems like he has tons of warts on his pumpkin face, which I think is great. Some yellow LED eyes, and his teeth look very cool. They're like kind of all over the place, and just a very wide, eerie smile, which I think is great for this character. But overall, I'm a pretty big fan of the pumpkin guy. Next up in this photo is also a sort of owl blow mold. I won't spend a lot of time on these, but it's typical yard decor. And then you also have these witches in the back, which are also mainly for yard decor. But then behind the witches, you can actually see the returning tree from Home Depot last year. And this time it seems to have a lot more texture and mossiness to it. It looks very dirtied up compared to the tree last year, and I really like it. I don't know if you will still have those LEDs that you can change, but I think so far this is definitely a big improvement from Home Depot's tree last year, definitely, just because I really like that he is decaying and corroded. Next up is going to be a sort of Christmas prop and Halloween at the same time. This is going to be the creepy snowman animatronic. Now, I'm not sure if it is going to be an animatronic, but from the looks of it, I feel like he will have some arm movement. But this guy looks phenomenal. He has the face of almost like a jack-o'-lantern, which is just great. And he has this top hat that is also fit in that red and green color scheme. Same with his scarf. I just love the overall look of this guy for a sort of classic snowman. But he's also on the Halloween side, so you can really use this guy in any display. Halloween, creepy Christmas, or just Christmas. And I personally love the concept of this guy. Not one that I would get just because I don't know how to use him, but I do think this is a really cool addition for Home Depot's 2025 lineup. The next image has so much to talk about in it, but the first prop I do want to talk about is the 4 feet tall, groundbreaking skeleton. This groundbreaking skeleton looks phenomenal. I love that he's kind of decaying and he has a sort of dead skin on him. Just, it feels like a typical white skeleton that wouldn't be as effective, but I really love the look of this guy, and he actually has LEDs in his eyes and ribcage that you can control the colors that you do want them to be, which I think is great. But the best part about this guy is he's actually on a track. Typically, we see professional companies use props that go on a track and kind of crawl towards the guest. And this guy is bringing it to the retail market now, being that he is also on a track and he's going to crawl towards you. I'm so excited for this guy to release because he is probably going to be one that I will pick up. I really want to see how the track mechanism works, how fast he goes, and how the crawling actually looks. But so far, I love the look of this guy, and this is probably one that I will have to pick up. To the right of him, you have this sort of harbinger of hell, I guess I would call him. He's kind of a more demonic type creature, and he has a scroll in his hands that is burnt. And in another photo, you can see that in his left hand, he is holding a scythe, which I think is really cool. But this is usually sort of a beginner prop Home Depot has every year. This isn't the same one, but they usually have 1 or 2 beginner props, and this being one of them. I do think the look of this guy is really good, being that type of demonic creature. And I'm a pretty big fan of him, but not one that I would personally purchase. Behind all of that, we have a sort of reskin of Trickster Trio. This being zombies instead of clowns. I do think that the clown idea did work better with this triple stack, but I do like the zombies just because I feel like a fresh take on Trickster Trio is nice. But I don't know how this will turn out because we can only see a glimpse of them. But I'm excited to see what they do. Hopefully somewhat like Trickster Trio. But that's about it for the zombies. And then right next to them, we do have another sort of caretaker, which we get a gravedigger like every year from Home Depot. But this one is probably my favorite out of all the ones in the past. He's kind of standing on what looks to be a dirt mount, which I think is cool. Hopefully that's included. And he has a sort of sack, which I think could possibly have some movement as it like wiggles around or something, because that would be really cool. And then so far his face looks like kind of generic for all the gravedigger props that we do get. And then we can see he's holding some sort of staff. So I am excited to see what this guy actually does when we get the official demos. And we will have to see with this guy, but I think he might be the best gravedigger out of them all so far. In this picture, we can also see that the 12-foot skeleton and the 12-foot skeleton's dog are both going to be returning for the 2025 season. And in front of that, we can see this sort of doctor/scientist prop. This one is kind of hard to tell what it actually is, but I do think the concept of it is cool, being that it is something like a doctor or a scientist. He's holding what seems to be a sort of like spell wand. I can't really make out what it actually is that he's holding in this photo, but I do like the overall look of him with that sort of top hat, and he has those like old clothes from like the 80s or somewhat, and he has this really like fluffy mustache. At first I thought that this was a dog prop, but now knowing that it isn't, I feel like his mustache does look a bit out of the ordinary for this prop, but we will have to see with this guy because I feel like he could be a really cool prop for the 2025 season. As I was about to post this Home Depot video, we just got even more pictures from the manager meeting. And in this next sort of part, but it's still in the same video, I'm going to be covering a ton of new props that have not been revealed. The first ones I want to talk about is kind of a pair, those being Chucky and Tiffany. We did get a Chucky animatronic from Home Depot last year, but now he's returning in a new form, being a scarred version, and this time he's more like a doll size, and I don't think that he will have the same servo movement. And then right next to him is Tiffany. She also has what seems to be a knife, and they both look very movie accurate. Specifically Tiffany, she looks very great for her being Chucky's bride and coming from Child's Play. They both look very good for licensed props. Next up is going to be a new pirate ship animatronic. This is crazy that we are getting another pirate ship from Home Depot, as we did get one in the past. This time, it being only a smidge bit different. It's pretty much the same, but I do really like the pirate ship. It has that huge pirate banner, and then that obvious pirate skeleton, which I think is great. He has that kind of steering wheel to steer the ship, and then it just looks great for the pirate ship. I don't know how wide it is, but it does look to be pretty wide, which is great for the proportions of this. I think the skeleton could have been a bit taller just because the proportions are so big, but I do think that the pirate ship looks great. Next up, I'm going to talk about this new pig animatronic. Now, this is kind of random for this type of pig animatronic, but I do think it looks really good. He's type of a butcher from what I'm getting from it, because he does have that meat cleaver, and I really like the look of him. I think his face looks great. He might be manufactured by SVI, but I really love the look of this guy, especially for him to be used in a butcher scene. I think he would go just perfectly with this. And I do want to say, with this image specifically, I want to give the credit to Home Depot Haunt and Holly Decorating Club, because in the past few images, we have not used them, but now with the new images that have just been revealed, they are the ones providing the images. Next up is going to be Frankenstein's bride. So last year from Home Depot, I already covered Frankenstein was returning, but now we're getting his bride, which is very cool to see that we actually have them both going together. And I don't know what she will do. She kind of looks like that she will lunge forward in a way, and I really like the look of her. She looks very similar to the movie, and she just looks really great overall. She has that type of wedding gown on, or it might just be a white dress. I can't really tell. She does seem to be made by Techie or Party Time, one of those companies, not SVI, just because of the way that she does look. But I do think that Frankenstein's bride is a good addition for the 2025 season. I did already talk about these three animatronics, but we can get a bit of a better look at them in this image, and I'm not going to cover them at all in here. But we do have the triple stack zombies again, and we can see the two zombies, and they actually have really good face sculpts, and I think they look pretty cool. But like I said, I did already go over these, so there are the zombie stack. Next up is going to be a witch animatronic that we did not get a look at all in the first day of the manager meeting. Well, technically not the first day, but this is going to be a brand new witch animatronic, and it looks like from the way that her head is tilted, she could possibly be servo, but I don't think she will. It does seem to be that she does have some side-to-side head movement, and she has yellow LED eyes, and then she has this kind of staff with a crow on it, and I think that this witch overall looks really great, and I love her dress. I don't know what color it is. It does have a purple UV light on it, which I think looks great, and then she has that sort of bone necklace around her neck. But overall, I think that the witch prop is very cool. Well, that's it for the Home Depot 2025 manager meeting. So far, if there is more images tomorrow, I won't make a video on them, but this is what we got from the past 2 days. I want to give a big thank you to Dowood Manor and the Home Depot Haunt and Holly Decorating Club for the images provided in this video. But let me know what you guys think about the Home Depot 2025 manager meeting so far, because I think that Home Depot is off to a great start. But anyway, make sure you remember that I'm the Spear Keeper, and I give you a reason for every season. Bye.